Thanks for that introduction, Mary. And I think Rachel's pulling up her slides, although my screen is a little slow. There we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Gianna Petito. I am the grants coordinator for the Clean Water Initiative program, and I am so excited to be co-presenting with some of my colleagues today, Rachel Wood, Lauren Sofer, and Sarah Coleman. Next slide, please. So our agenda for today, we're going to start briefly with just who is CWIP, or who is the Clean Water Initiative program, and what do we do? Talk briefly about who do we work with. Did the slides progress? I think in mine it's still the cover.
It's progressed for me.
There we go. Great. And then spend maybe the bulk of our time actually on how do we invest in clean water, and wrap up with some opportunities for connecting with Clean Water Initiative funding and a Q&A session. So I know that this presentation was built a little bit about us providing an outline of available upcoming funding opportunities. There's a lot of them, and we really struggled to put that into a succinct and coherent presentation. So we're going to shift gears a little bit to give you more of a high-level overview of our approach to funding clean water, which we're endearingly going to call the funding rainbow for this presentation. And then we're going to follow up with a resources document with lots of links and our direct contact information. So if you have any questions about reviewing some of the materials or the presentation today that you didn't get to ask during the Q&A, we really encourage you to reach out to us. So we're hoping if there's time, this might be a bit more of a dialogue and a conversation with you all, get some of your feedback on the accessibility of our funds, and then, dig in certain places depending on your questions. Next slide, please. So who is CWIP? Who is the Clean Water Initiative program? Well, we are a team of passionate individuals. We facilitate the restoration of Vermont's natural resources through meaningful clean water investments. Oh, I just lost it. Oh, there we go. And I think for me personally, the word facilitate is really a key word in our mission statement. I see that we play a role in coordinating and collaborating, but we really rely on our partners and our funders to do this work. And it's really, they're all sort of important entities in making this successful. We are part of the governmental alphabet soup. So if you are sort of a structural thinker, just for your reference, CWIP is housed in the Water Investment Division, WID, which is housed in the Department for Environmental Conservation, DEC, which is housed in the Agency of Natural Resources, ANR. And for those who may be unaware, we also exist in statute. So part of the Clean Water Initiative purpose is to provide the financing necessary to achieve and maintain compliance with Vermont's water quality standards. Next slide, please. What that means for us as a program, we sort of conceptualize our work broadly across four different sort of chunks of work or pots of work. Although our colleagues in our program certainly do other really important tasks that maybe don't quite fit these buckets. So first of all, we do a lot of budgeting. We manage dollars from a range of different funding sources, and those funding sources can change over time. And those funding sources really have different rules attached on how those dollars can be spent. So we tend to coordinate with other departments to understand what the forecasted dollar amounts might be for those budgets. For example, we might work with the tax department to get a sense from them what the forecast water fund, or we might work with the business office to apply for federal funds from the Environmental Protection Agency or the Natural Resource Conservation Service. So we work with all of them, our funders, and these decision-making bodies like the Clean Water Board to build budgets around the forecasted dollars that we're going to be managing. And a lot of our work then kind of dives into packaging and translating these budgets into spending initiatives and grant programs to fund clean water work. And what we're really trying to do there is match all the rules attached to all those dollars to all the needs that we're hearing through the tactical basin planning and from our partners. So we try to figure out where those dollars can best be spent, packaging it effectively and efficiently, leveraging as much federal money into the state as we can, and then finding those gaps and opportunities. So the next sort of big bucket is funding. So once we have these spending initiatives, we oversee them kind of getting on the ground. or we rely on our partners in other programs and state departments to oversee these programs. So then in that case, we sort of serve a technical assistance role. We help them sort of strategize, should your money go out as a block grant? Should it go out as a contract? We help them write the request for proposals or agreements. And then we provide technical assistance to our grantees for the projects we oversee. We manage a funding policy that sort of dictates some standardized policies across all these programs about eligible entities and pieces like that, and then sort of oversee these grant programs getting on the ground. The third column, track and report, is really built around this performance report, which we deliver to the legislature and to the public every year, which reports on all investments in clean water in the state. So it's important to know that investments in clean water in the state don't just come from our program, don't just come from the Water Investment Division. They're happening across state agencies and departments. They're happening from federal agencies. And so our program also collaborates and partners with all of them and gets data from them about how much they spend and some of the outcomes of that spending. What projects happen on the ground? What are the improvements, or how does that impact water quality in the state? And then finally, we've been working to sort of verify these investments, to go back and look at these projects once they're on the ground to make sure that they're still providing a service in terms of protecting and improving our water quality. So we've developed protocols and tools, and we'll be developing trainings around that piece. Next slide. So that's sort of a somewhat brief overview of sort of a big picture of QIP. Today, we're really focusing on the second column of funding. How have we conceptualized how we package our spending initiatives for our partners, and then highlighting some key examples of some of our programs and initiatives, and wrapping up with some key ways for you to connect with these funding opportunities. Next slide.
All right, so a key part of this is who do we work with to implement and facilitate this funding? Our team facilitates the restoration of Vermont's natural resources through meaningful clean water investments, and the key word there is facilitates. And in order to do that, we need our partners. So in order to get these projects underway, it wouldn't be possible without them. From municipalities, project managers, federal partners, state DEC staff, engineers, technical consultants, private landowners, business owners, and more, like our funders. All of our partners play different roles throughout the process and are eligible for different funds, but by working together, we can make this clean water work possible. We are curious to hear who is attending today and would love it if people feel comfortable to pop in the chat what partner category you represent. We'll also talk about the meat of the entire presentation of how do we invest in this clean water. We'll walk through how we do that. We have organized this presentation based on the life cycle of the funding of clean water, and we'll start with how projects are found and prioritized, talk about advancing projects through designs and implementation, how these projects are taken care of after installation, and how we're advancing techniques and best practices. Each funding type will feature the typical milestones of a project step that are taken to achieve this funding type of work, what supports this work, such as funding, plans, or reports, and ways to connect to this funding. Next, I'll hand it over to Gianna to start it off with finding projects.
Great. Thanks, Rachel. Finding projects. Why do we find projects? We need to find projects to be able to invest in designing and implementing them. And we want to know which of those projects or opportunities are going to be the best bang for the buck. So we invest in a lot of work we call finding projects to go out onto the ground and identify areas where there's huge stressors to our waterways, huge contributions to pollutants or maybe impacts to aquatic habitat, and identify those opportunities for projects, and then kind of prioritize those opportunities. Most often by cost effectiveness, cost in relation to the improvement that comes from it, but there might be other reasons why we might prioritize one project or another. So typical milestones that we understand in this finding projects realm is there's usually some sort of field observation component or desktop, work on your computer to look at maps and surveys. A lot of the field observation or field assessment work that we fund already has standardized tools and protocols. There's usually a landowner communication piece, particularly if you're doing an assessment on private property. There's identification of the project opportunities, and then we expect some sort of stakeholder collaboration in prioritizing those projects and developing a plan for that. a lot of these assessments then sort of aggregate and pool together and feed into the broader tactical basin plans for that region. Next slide. So these are some examples and not the full suite of examples of how we fund or what types of assessments we fund and planning we fund to find projects. For example, we do have a pot of funds and we support folks going out to do lake-wise and lake watershed action plans or around certain lakes that have been identified as a priority by the Lakes program. So we fund people's time to go out and talk with landowners and assess those lakefront properties for impacts to lakeshore habitat and lake water quality. We fund entities to go around towns and find stormwater impacts and identify the opportunities and then do a collaborative planning process to prioritize those. So this is a short list of some examples of how we support finding projects. Next slide, please. So how can you connect with this work or assessment work? And it definitely varies by who you are, who you represent, and your goals in this field. We think one of the key pieces is communicating local need. So again, a lot of these assessments are prioritized. They've already been identified as a priority in a tactical basin plan or a state staff member at DEC who says we need to have an assessment here. If you're in an area where you feel like a plan is getting pretty old or an assessment is really needed, that needs to be vocalized to your watershed planner or part of the tactical basin planning process. Tactical basin plans are a public process. Each major watershed in the state has one that's updated every, I think, 5 or 7 years. There's opportunity for public input, but if you want to speak more regularly, you can contact your watershed planner. If you're in the Lake Champlain or Lake Memphremagog Basin, you'll also have a Basin Water Quality Council, and representatives on that council participate in tactical basin planning and can be a good representative and voice for you if you want to speak up about a very localized priority. You can apply for funds to do this work. A lot of times, if the funds are coming from the Clean Water Initiative program or a partnering staff and other programs in DEC, it'll be released onto the Vermont Business Registry. And so look for those calls for proposals and bid on them if they're in your area, if they're in your area of expertise. It's a great opportunity and something to be aware of. If you are an individual, we don't tend to just fund individuals, but if you are interested in doing this work, you should connect with folks that we do fund, who we call eligible recipients. These might be your local watershed groups, regional planning commissions, environmental consultant groups, natural resource conservation districts. We list those out in our funding policy, and we provide a link to that in the resources document. And the last thing to flag is to attend assessment trainings if you're interested in gaining some professional expertise in finding projects. Some of these assessments and tools are getting updated, or it's been a long time since we provided training in it, and we're envisioning some of those trainings to come up again pretty soon. For example, stream geomorphic assessments. It's been a while since we provided that training. We might be announcing and releasing a training opportunity in the next couple of years for that. Next slide.
Thank you, Gianna. So the next step from finding projects is to advance them towards final design and implementation in order to achieve these pollution reduction goals. From the prioritized list of the potential projects that Gianna just went through, projects are then advanced to design installation, and this work can start with determining the feasibility of this project to move forward. Which can involve coordinating with potential partners and landowners and developing the preliminary designs of the project. This next step is to advance the projects to its finalized designs, obtain any required permits that came up, and implement the project. There are a lot of widespread funding for this type of work across the different land use sectors, from agriculture, natural resources, wastewater, and developed lands, which includes stormwater and roads. So this table on the right provides a nice high-level description of the different kind of clean water project objectives by land use type that we hope to achieve with these projects. Pulling from the developed lands, wastewater, and natural resource sectors are 3 examples listed on the left that are some of the more new and exciting initiatives that we want to highlight. The first is 3 Acre Stormwater. It's funded by state and federal investments that are initiatives to assist landowners and schools to comply with stormwater permit requirements, which involves treating of existing impervious surfaces, This is around impervious surfaces that are greater than 3 acres and involves the installation of clean water projects to reduce the impact of stormwater runoff. The wastewater infrastructure, through American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, and other state resources, there is funding available for design and permitting assistance for current water infrastructure projects, such as connections to municipal water or wastewater systems and installation of on-site water or wastewater projects. An example of this type of work is installation of on-site septic systems or implementation of pre-treatment systems that help reduce loading on local wastewater systems. The final is a natural resource project, dam removal. Through a block grant funding structure, there is funding for designs and implementation of dam removal projects to restore the connectivity of surface waters. And these type of projects can have a host of benefits to the environment, from flood resiliency to increased natural movement and fish passage and increased water quality. As Gianna had mentioned before, and this is very similar, connecting to this clean water means connecting with your local groups. Funding available for this advancement can be complex and hard to navigate around with various funding structures and who this can be distributed to, such as homeowners, practitioners, and municipalities. And some of the different funding mechanisms are formula grants, contracts, block grants, rebate, and beneficiary programs. And based on these different mechanisms, different entities are eligible. More recently, due to new funds coming in, such as the American Rescue Plan Act, funding mechanisms like rebate and beneficiary programs are being used in order to distribute funds directly to recipients rather than in a block or formula grant model. A great way to connect with this funding moving forward is to connect with your local partners, like your local watershed group, natural resource conservation district, your regional planning commission, or even your clean water service provider. Another great way to stay connected to this funding and access resources is by signing up for listservs that will announce recent updates and keep you informed on opportunities. And we'll be sharing a resource document at the end that it has all of these links and ways to connect to these partners and join these listservs.
Thanks, Rachel. So we've covered how we find and advance projects, and now we'll review how we take care of projects. And why does this matter? Well, we want to make good on our investments, and we want to maximize the effectiveness of our projects. So you can take care of projects by referring to guidance materials such as the DEC Operation and Maintenance Manual or the existing project agreement. And those documents will inform how you revisit and assess sites, how you prioritize maintenance needs, and how you implement O&M. Next slide, please. So here are some ways that we support project care. To date, we've offered technical assistance via an O&M maintenance plan agreement template, and the template captures suggestions for action, but it doesn't actually fund the work. So moving forward, we're excited to have a funding mechanism to acknowledge the commitment that needs to be made to O&M by clean water service providers for project implementation in Lake Champlain and Lake Memphremagog. Additionally, we added a new eligible expense, enhanced stewardship, for riparian buffer plantings. So this expands eligible activities to include weeding, mowing, and tree care. Next slide, please. So we're working to build more capacity in O&M, and some of the ways you can connect with this work is to attend inspection and verification trainings, look for requests for qualifications posted by clean water service providers through formula grants, and apply to riparian buffer planting block grants. Next slide, please. So to support all these funding initiatives, finding, advancing, and taking care of projects, we need to continuously amplify best practices and build capacity. And we do this by developing and piloting new tools, investing in capacity of clean water partners, providing trainings, and developing educational materials. Next slide, please. So here are some ways that we've supported amplifying best practices and building capacity. So the Functioning Floodplain Initiative, FFI, develops and applies methods for mapping and quantifying opportunities to reconnect streams, riparian forests, wetlands, and floodplains. And this project is currently in progress. The Forestry Acceptable Management Practices, AMPs project, augment existing outreach, education, and grant programs available to Vermont's forest economy. So for example, this project takes the existing forestry AMPs manual, so a printed manual, and it actually turned it into an app. And the image to the left is a screenshot of some of the app. And foresters can take this and use it in the field. And that app is actually now complete and available for download and linked in our resources document. An example of technical assistance is our wastewater treatment facility optimization projects, which offer the potential for innovative solutions to reduce effluent phosphorus loads by adjusting internal operations and process control within the existing treatment works. And so we have projects that are complete and in the past, but they're also ongoing. And last but not least, we value our partners and we look forward to making organizational capacity investments via our new organizational capacity assessment and interventions project. So a big plug, and we value all of you present here. So next slide. So you can connect with this work by signing up for our newsletter and announcements, attending trainings and accessing new materials, viewing the Clean Water Lecture Series, which, hurrah, you're doing right now, and much more. Next slide, please.
Great. Thank you, Rachel and Lauren. So hopefully that gave you at least a little insight into how we've conceptualized, how we bucket our funding, how we package our funding across the project lifecycle, and a very brief highlight of some of the opportunities or examples of how we funded that. I'm just going to summarize maybe some themes that we learned by developing this in terms of best ways to connect with Clean Water Initiative funding, and then leave some really space for you folks about questions that might have come up as you have found out about different funding initiatives. So next slide, please. What are the biggest themes that we saw in this? I think it's really important to convey to you all that local voices really matter, and they really help in prioritizing our funding, starting at the budgeting level, understanding and recognizing where those gaps and opportunities are and designing those programs, all the way down to even within a specific grant program, how all the projects that apply to it might be prioritized. And so the local voice matters. Participate in your tactical basin planning process, whether as a statutory partner or as part of the public. Please speak with your watershed planner. They're a great resource for you there. We are invested in building technical capacity of our network and our partners. So please continue to look out for training materials and opportunities. Is something that we're continuing to invest in as a program, and want to make that available for you all and receive feedback on where there are gaps and where there are needs there too. If you are not part of the Clean Water Network, connect with it. Vermont is so fortunate to have a wealth of professionals who are experts in this field, from watershed groups to regional planning commissions to districts to environmental consultants. There's a lot of fantastic work happening on the ground. So if you're representing a local group or neighborhood and have concerns, that group might be your local watershed professionals might be your first stop to learn about what's already happening and to learn how you can get involved. And also they can help amplify your concerns or your priorities for your area. Sign up for listservs, which I know is sometimes people's email inboxes can feel overwhelming. And a lot of you are probably on our Clean Water Initiative program listservs if you're here. But like Rachel mentioned, there are ones specific to the American Rescue Plan Act and all of the funding coming through our program and other programs, which are unique to them and those opportunities. And there's also the Vermont Business Registry. So if you're not connected there, that's where a lot of funding opportunities are also announced. And the last thing that we didn't quite mention in the presentation, but to flag for all of you, is we do annually develop what we call the spending plan for the Clean Water Initiative program. And that was just recently released for this fiscal year, which starts last month in July and goes through next June. And the spending plan is one way that we try to communicate to the public what are the new funds, what are the new spending or current spending initiatives, and how much, and when we expect those funds to be released. So it's a great way to help you sort of project and plan if you're interested in doing any of these pieces. Next slide.
Nice job. Thanks, Gianna, Rachel, and Lauren. So that concludes our presentation for you today, and we just wanted to open it up for a broader discussion or any questions. This was really a high level presentation of how we think about our funding initiatives. And there's a lot of different ways when we were meeting on this presentation that we could talk about it or present it. So this is really one way, but would be interested in hearing what other questions you have or what you would find helpful for maybe a future lecture series talk. Tom.
Yes, thank you. So the town of Berlin is doing a lot with Clean Water State Revolving Loan Funds, and there's been an influx of a lot of federal money there. It seems that the amount of money and therefore proposals have overwhelmed the staff there that review these projects. And so can you speak to that, how that works with these dollars? Is there a check-in at 30, 60, 90% that needs staff involvement and review and approval before you move on, or how that works from your end? Thank you.
Hey, Tom. Yeah, I can speak to that and welcome others to speak up as well. In terms of comparison to the revolving loan fund, we definitely operate a little differently. We don't have an intended use plan process. A lot of times for these programs, they are grants, they're not loans. But we do sort of define certain design steps. So we typically have like a 30% design project type. So you can apply to get 30%, get your project through 30% design. And then there's some involvement and review along the way. And then you can apply to get through 100% design. So one thing that we've done historically is you have to sort of reapply at each step for funding for the next step. We're trying to actually be inspired by the state revolving loan fund so that you don't necessarily have to reapply. And we may, in a future block grant, have more of an opportunity for you to apply sort of initially and just have a little bit more of these check-in steps along the way with some state review, particularly around permitting and certain programs, depending on your project type. Does that answer your question, Tom?
Well, it sounds similar to the process of Clean Water SRF. And the problem that I'm seeing is with federal dollars, a lot of municipalities have put in many projects. And at the staff level, to get from the 30%, there has to be a review. And that's where there is a log jam. How do you folks may be inundated with projects. How are you planning to get projects current? Everybody wants to get to shovel ready because that's the next level of funding if you have a shovel ready project. So again, I commend what you're doing, but I hope you've thought through this process.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate that comment too. There's definitely been some internal dialogue around the benefits and curses of this blessing of funds that are coming from the federal government and what that means in terms of workload for our towns, for our partners, and for within DEC. So I think there are some opportunities for smoothing out, at least from the granting side, who has to review and when. So Sarah did mention in the chat, for our grants and projects, we managing the grant don't necessarily review the designs. We might have permitting programs review those designs to make sure that they meet permitting standards. Of course, those permitting programs are overwhelmed with our grant program and other programs coming through. So we've tried to alleviate, at least from the granting side, any kind of additional steps needed. And I think there is some exploration of staffing up in different programs, but I can't speak to that entirely, how they're going to go about. I don't know, Emily, if you wanted to speak more to that, or Sarah, Lauren, Rachel.
I think you covered it well, Gianna. I'll just add that tied to the bipartisan infrastructure law, the agency is anticipating onboarding, or the department, I should say, over 40 new positions to help accommodate that additional capacity need on the programs, both the funding programs and the permitting programs. So we hope that the capacity will start to better align with the dollars available that we're trying to get out the door. And we really appreciate everyone's patience in working with us through the process as we ramp up these dollars. So it's a great point. And we are also working on some internal streamlining to clarify review process and try to strike the right level of detail given different risk levels for different project types and funding sources. So great job, Gianna, responding. And I don't know that I have much to add beyond that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add, you know, we all have that shared goal of getting these projects on the ground in the most efficient and effective way as possible. And we are, you know, this is a really unprecedented time with the amount of funding that we have. And it's, you know, this really demands a collaborative process. So we are working on streamlining our funding initiatives as much as possible. But like Emily said, striking that balance so that, you know, we are still having the right level of accountability. But I think it'll be, there might be some opportunities for that streamlining and achieving some input to improve this process as we go to meet this like really colossal opportunity and the challenges that it presents.
Mary, should we call on folks or did you want to call on folks?
It's up to you, I guess. I think I see that Chip Sawyer has raised their hand. Chip, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, hi, thank you very much. We're in St. Albans City, we're an MS4 community. We have a list of capital stormwater treatment projects that we need to build. And we've been in the planning stages for a long time. We've seen a lot of implementation funding from various sources get announced here and there, and now we're ready to actually start going after some of it. We've got 3 projects right now that are in final plans. I think they're all permitted or they're nearly there. And what's the best way to get some feedback on which funding sources to target for our projects between CWI, LCBP, and the Clean Water SRF? Is there any entity, maybe it's you folks, that helps us figure out where's the best place to seek funding if you have 3 projects that you're kind of ready to write grant applications for right now?
Yeah, I know maybe Sarah and Lauren can speak to Lake Champlain Basin program, being liaisons and coordinators with the program. I would say that's a great question and that we could potentially speak offline with you because we interface a lot with the Lake Champlain Basin program and with the Clean Water SRF. If we can learn more about the projects, which funding opportunity makes sense in terms of timing as well, because I think that's maybe a key factor as you're phasing in these projects ready to go. I know that you are probably aware or not, but there is this MS4 specific grant program that has come out of Act 76 to support implementation of your regulatory projects. That was a new charge put on our program's shoulders. And so we've been sort of starting the development phase of that, but Clean Water SRF is already sort of alive and well and available. So we can talk a little bit more offline about strategizing based on your project types and needs for that piece. Anyone else want to add to that?
That sounds great. Thanks, Janet. Yeah, having some grant funding available in the current state fiscal year to help MS4s implement phosphorus control planning activities. And the sort of longer term goal is that could potentially be leveraged with the Clean Water State Revolving Fund financing as a package. But it's in the very early stages of development, and we will be following up with the MS4 communities to get some input and feedback on the program design in the coming months. Thanks, Chip.
Thank you.
If there are any other questions, I encourage you to raise your hand and we'll call on you. I'm also going to put in the chat a feedback survey. If you would please fill that out, I'd really appreciate it. Are there any other questions? Well, hearing none. Oh, Linda, I see your hand.
Hi. Hi. I'm just curious about whether you could tell us some stories from the field of, some successful implementation of all the different steps you described to us, and then maybe some things that you learned from processes that didn't go so well. Yeah, just kind of some real life stories. You're all smiling. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
That's a great question, Linda. Yeah, there's just so many different projects that have been implemented over the years in partnership with our partners on the ground. And I think we've learned some lessons in terms of program design and trying to strike the right level of detail of like project review and checkpoints and making sure that projects progress in a manner that achieve the intended outcomes and minimize impacts to natural resources. So there's certainly been some lessons learned in capacity building in that space over the years. But also just, yeah, like the theme throughout this presentation is that we can't do this work without our partners. And so we're really trying to figure out a way to get these funds more efficiently in the hands of partners to implement good projects, and helping to tell the story and communicate to the public how these dollars are an important investment and should be sustained long term. So, but I would love to open it up to the team to see if there's project specific examples or success stories that you would like to share.
Linda, that's a great question. And yeah, I don't know if I have a story, but I also think, the way that we talked about our funding initiatives was, finding and advancing and taking care of these projects. And then I think a lot of what our challenge is and what's really interesting is thinking about these different funding initiatives and how they hand off to the next step, and making sure that the projects are set up to progress, and that there isn't something missing, so that we can be as efficient as possible and maintain momentum and progress with projects that are often really from the beginning to end a multi-year process.
Yeah, I think I would echo both of what Sarah and Emily are saying, because I almost feel like the way that we conceptualize our spending initiatives is reflective of the learning through time. And it is more at an initiative level because we do rely so much on our partners, and we've been shifting so much more to these, we call these bulk contracts or block grants or formula grants that are blocked out, so that there's an intermediary who sort of sees all these great projects happening on the ground and reporting them back to us in these batches. But I think what we're learning through time is sort of the needs for some of these transitions. This need, I think what was newly invested in the last few years is this whole project development phase. The phase, once the projects are ID'd, how do you get it from that to design? And there's a whole bunch of work getting the stakeholders on board and figuring out permitting needs and figuring that out, that sort of evolved and affected our program such that we then designed funding initiative around it. And similarly, through time and receiving all this federal funding, we're now realizing like our partners need more capacity, and that is evolving towards us developing an initiative to invest in that capacity. So I think that that's sort of how we're trying to be adaptive too in our programs at the program level.
Thank you.
Maybe one of our next lecture series will have a clean water fireside chat and tell some stories and invite our partners for that. That's a neat idea, Linda. Thanks.
Linda, do you have a success story you'd like to share?
related to funding or in general?
It can be in general. I know you do a lot of great work in the clean water space.
Boy, I mean, I've been doing this for so many years and just knowing that funding is out there. A very, very specific example right now is that my family has had summer property since since 1920 in North Ferrisburgh on the lake. And the community that owns the property, because it's all jointly owned, just got a very thorough tour from Lakewise. And we had one with Amy a few years ago, but we didn't sort of follow up. But now we've got a real gung-ho committee, and they are very interested in how we might get funding for projects in that area, because we are, as you know, down in North Ferrisburgh, one of the hotspots for, yeah, we're a red zone. And so anyway, so that's why I'm here, is because they were asking me as a representative of Sea Grant and as having contacts with you all, what our options might be. It's a small, you want a big bang for your buck. We're a small bang, but you never know. So.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that backstory, Linda. And yeah, I think like echoing what Sarah had said earlier, because there's so many initiatives, we've put our contact information on this resources document. Please follow up, because I think even your question is maybe a 45-hour long conversation about, some opportunities for the community based on different, restrictions and limitations. And so I think what we're trying to convey to all of you is that we want to help, we want to be there as a resource. So please reach out and we can chat and brainstorm strategies for you. Thanks, Mary.
Helen's asking where is the resource document?
We've developed it, and Mary, are we able to like email it around to folks, or Rachel maybe knows the answer?
Oh, I just sent it to you, Mary, in a PDF. I couldn't attach it as a attachment in the chat because it's a PDF. So I think just adding it to the follow-up email would be great. My thought anyways.
Yeah, I will send it around in the follow-up email.
Nancy, what would you like sent to you? The presentation?
Sorry about that. The resource document. Took me a minute.
Yeah,
Great.
Nancy, I'll make sure you get it.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, well, thanks everyone for coming. It was wonderful to see you all, and thank you, presenters. That was an amazing and informative session. This recording will be on our YouTube channel, so you can look at it again or send it around, as all of our lectures are. So I'll put the link to the channel in the chat, and yeah, hope to see you at another lecture.
Thank you so much. Great presentation.
And thank you, Mary, so much for a great whole clean water lecture series.
Thank you. It was really fun.